Welcome back to the Preneur Life. Are student loans right for you? Is there any alternatives for financing your education? Let's find out. Let's get right into Preneurs. We have three categories we're going to be talking about here today. We're going to talk about some facts that's going on with student loans. We're going to talk about how to prevent some debt, and then I have some solutions if you already have some debt. So stick with us to the end. The first thing about some facts is, look at this. The average debt right now for someone that has student loans is $57,520. It's kind of interesting because I remember when I got my business management degree, that was my debt actually. It was pretty interesting. It was around $57,000, so I can definitely relate with that. Look at this. This money right here is pretty much like a down payment on a $300,000 home right now. That's like you buying a Lexus ES. That's like you getting an Infiniti, maybe a Tesla, maybe another car of your interest as well. That's exactly what pretty much $57,000 is. Let me look at another point for you. The average interest rate. So if you decide to step into school for yourself, look at these interest rates right here. 4.66% for an undergrad right now is your interest rate. Look at 6.22% for graduate students. And look at this. If you're a parent that's actually paying for their child, or if you're a grad student as well, you're looking at 7.27% as your interest rate. That's crazy, right? Look at another fact for yourself. How many have actually never paid off their debt before? These numbers are kind of alarming to me when I look at it. Look at 1 out of 5 people have never paid off their debt. If you're stepping into student loans, and 1 out of 5 is going to be in that situation. And the last point when it comes to facts is the average length of a student loan. Look at this really quickly. 21.1 years is your average length. That means if you are literally graduating high school right now, you're 19 years old, and you go all the way to the age of what? 40 years old. That's pretty much $60,000 of debt over that 21-year period. You know what you could have did with that $60,000? You could have actually put it into maybe to an IRA, a mutual fund, another type of investment. Let's just say, let's have some fun with it. You were getting 8% every year on that investment. You know what you could have had? You could have had a total of $161,000. That is an increase of 168% on your money, or it could have went into debt. There's multiple ways you could have did it. These are just some facts for yourself to look at. But another thing to look at for yourself is, how could you even prevent going to that situation right now? Well, here's a couple different things for you. Hey, get a job, okay? Get a job. What does that look like? Everyone's hiring right now, guys. When I say everyone's hiring, everyone's hiring. I walked into Jersey Mike's the other day. They had shirts everywhere saying, hey, come on, hire us. I would take my kids to school. I'm literally seeing all these different things. Hey, CDL, we're actually employing if you're $20 an hour right now. Everywhere I go, I'm noticing signs of that we are hiring. One of the biggest things right now is you'll see a recent article from Forbes actually just put out that 9.2 million jobs are available physically and remotely. So a job might be something that may be able to contribute to. Make sure you're not going to fall into some of these facts over here on the debt side. Another one is start a business. Okay, so what problem can you solve right now for yourself? That's usually what you want to do when you're starting a business. Another thing you might want to think about if you're starting a business is going to an industry that's already producing, that's handling major problems. Maybe you want to become 1099 in an industry such as that. Like for myself, I stepped into the financial industry. I remember having $57,000 of debt. The financial industry, which is over a $63 trillion industry, was able to contribute to me paying off that debt over there because I was 1099. And that might be also a contribution for you as well. Next point for you is family and friends. When I was doing some research on this one, this was pretty interesting. Why? Because who is really willing to invest in your future? And a recent article from Forbes actually posted that 28% of millennials' debt that was paid for their student loans was all paid from family and friends. Next point is GoFundMe. This is pretty interesting. We did some research on this one. That $70 million per year is raised for more than $100,000 of education funds and campaigns. So GoFundMe might make sense for you. You know why? Because you're receiving donations, and there's really no strings attached as well. That might be an opportunity. Another one is side hustles. I remember we did a video on this. If you're interested, it'll probably pop on the screen about different side hustles that might make sense for you to be able to increase more cash flow so you don't have to fall into debt as well. But the real question is, what do you not mind doing to increase more cash flow in your pocket today? That might be some opportunities for you to prevent yourself out of being in debt. And the last one is your solution. And what's the solution for? Maybe you've already been an undergrad. Maybe you're in graduate school. Maybe you've already positioned yourself to graduate. And you're saying, well, what do I do now? I already have the debt. What are my options for myself? Well, here's a couple for you. Well, number one is paying the minimum. Okay, so what can you do to be paying the minimum? Because either you have what's called private loans or you have federal loans. So when you start thinking about those two different things, if you're a private loan, is there any other debts that you have right now? Does it even make sense to pay that debt off early? You have to think about that. If you have a federal loan, should you even hold off paying that minimum debt or paying the full debt? Why should you hold off? Well, because you probably cannot step into any type of student loan forgiveness programs if you pay off that debt early. Yeah, and that might be an opportunity for you as well to step into those. But the real question for you is, if you're going to step into this situation, is what are your goals? And does the debt of student loans, is it a higher priority for other goals that maybe you have where that money could be going into? Only you can answer that question. Another one is, number two for you, is pick up a side hustle versus just getting a job. What does that really mean? Well, you have taxes and time. And it really depends on where you live at as well. But when you start talking about taxes, you're going to be paying federal wherever you live. But state depends on where you live as well. So maybe you live in Nevada, no state. Maybe you live in Texas, no state. Maybe you live in Florida, no state. But maybe you live in California, high state, right? Maybe you live in New York, high state taxes. So depending on where you're at, really depends on the taxes you're going to be able to pay, and also the money that you're also going to be able to receive and keep. This is a big deal, and the time that you're spending. At a job, depending on what you're doing, you're going to be spending more in taxes and more in time. This is why we suggest again that you start a business for yourself, 1099, LLC, S Corp, C Corp, something along those lines, so you can control both your taxes and your time. That's a whole nother conversation for another time, but just again, a suggestion. Another one is number three is use your forbearance if needed. Okay, use your forbearance if needed. Again, I'll say that again. Why? Because this actually gives you time to strategize. Know what your next best move may be. Maybe it doesn't make sense to pay the whole debt off right now. Maybe it does make sense, but you have to strategize and kind of think about what you can do so that you're making the right moves for yourself. And the last one, number four, is enrolling, in a trusted debt program. Okay, so if you already have debt, enrolling in a trusted debt program. Why would you do that? Because there is programs that have a lot of accomplishment when it comes to testimonials. So how do you even know if it's a trusted debt program? Well, you got to look at the testimonials, have conversations with those that actually been through those programs. And that's always good to go through that, people that you already know that have done it already, versus just paid actors on commercials that just say, hey, come on and get this and let me help you with your debt. Again, that's something that I would be doing to decipher if I'm going to step into it or not. Well, guys, that's all we have for you today. Go in and share this video with anyone you think this information can help. And we'll go in and like, share, comment, and we'll see you on the next one.